Let's talk to Jordan Pugh. Jordan, good morning, buddy.
Hey, man, you call me whatever you want to, man. And I'm down to do a 3-hour show. As long as I get permission from the wife, I'm good to go, man. You know what I mean?
Well, so same thing I kind of talked to Jamie about, I want to talk to you about.
Okay.
I don't want to be a miserable person, right? I don't want to be just mad for 2 weeks because A&M lost to Notre Dame. And I'm not, by the way. I'm not. But I am also not going to allow the Notre Dame game to not make me feel at least a little okay with what I saw against a terrible opponent in McNeese. But I'm also not going to look at McNeese and be like, it's all figured out, guys. Yay, we're going to go 11-1. I'm not doing that either. But I can still look at that game and be like, all right, I see hopefully where we're headed. So you, who tells the truth every time, you don't play the BS game. How do you feel about this team after what you've seen the last 2 weeks?
I feel good. Look, so here's the thing. Defensively, they did almost what I wanted them to do. Last time I was on the show, I said, I want to see a shutout because that's what they're capable of defensively. Got close to it. There's some garbage points that they got in the end, but overall, I was pleased with the defense. Offensively, you're looking at the rushing game. Tell me if I'm wrong. What is it? Over 300 rushing yards on the day against McNeese. So that's impressive. I don't care.
333.
Right. Okay. There you go. So that's impressive no matter who you're playing. Here's my concern. My concern is the pass game. When I looked at Connor, I think it was less than 150 in passing yards. I think that we got to get more explosive in the passing game. The first game I thought was a bad game. This game with Connor, I don't know if it's just trying to get him in rhythm, but I didn't see the offense open up as much. I would like to see the all 22 tape, but looking at it from the TV copy, it looked like they were being very conservative, winning easy one-on-one routes, intermediate concepts. I didn't see anything that was overly threatened downfield as far as concept-wise. So I don't know if that's more so just trying to get him in a rhythm, trying to get his confidence back after the first game, or saving something a little bit for SEC play. That could be a possibility. But I'm not disappointed. I'm not concerned, but I am alert to the fact that the passing game has got to improve in order for us to get where we want to go, in order for us to improve like we want to, in order for us to make a dent in the SEC, we got to be more explosive in the pass game. So that's my biggest takeaway from this weekend. Defense looked good. Offense looked good, but offense is not excelling at the rate of the athleticism that we have on our team.
I'm going to read you the stat that Ag Engineering 12 just put up on the TexAgs chat. When Elko was a DC here, A&M was 7-8 on the road. Okay. After they've 0-7. All right. I think it's actually more than that. I think it's more than 0-7. For comparison, 12-3 at home versus the SEC when Elko was here. 4-3 after he left.
Well, you already know what our road woes have been. Look, the thing that I like is this: defense always travels. Okay, defense travels. So I'm encouraged by the defense. When you look at what the offense did and how explosive we were in the run game, that's something that travels as well. So you see the progression, you see what they fixed going into week 2. Now week 3, you got to put it all together. The one thing that I think we can do is I think we can exploit Florida in the pass game. I think we can run the football on them because out of the 2 matchups I've seen with them, I'm not impressed with their the defensive line play. I don't think that they're dominant at any set position, and I think we can exploit them in that facet. So hopefully they open up the playbook more offensively. They get the pass game going, but defensively, I think we'll play well. You're looking at the road record that we've had in the past, and what Elko has done, they'll have it tight-knit. Though he'll have everything under control from that standpoint. So I'm encouraged going into this game. I just want to see certain aspects, man. That we're getting into SEC play. You got to be able to open this thing up. And hopefully we'll get to see that this week.
So what does this game mean for several things, for A&M and the rest of the way? What it means for Connor and what he is going to be projected to be for the rest of the season. How important is this Florida game against a wounded team in Florida? And hello, we might be wounded as well. What does this game mean long term?
Nothing. It's an SEC win. I think that what you need to see with this team right now is I think you need to see improvement every single week. I don't want to say incremental improvement. I think you need to see vast improvement every single week. Now, if we getting into game 4, you breaking down the first quarter of the season, we can reconvene after that. I think we have the team, we have the assets, we have the playmakers in order to run away with this game, but it's also putting it all together. This hasn't been, when you look at the game 1, defense did their thing. Special teams did their thing. You look at game 2, you added the running game to it. Now, game 3, you need to be able to add the offensive pieces in there. So, of course, it means something because it's an SEC game, but in the grand scheme of it, I don't think it's overly detrimental to what we're doing as a program, what we're doing as a team. I think we just need to take another step moving forward. And I think if we take the step and we progress the right way, we'll win the game handily. It all depends on how well and how cohesive we are as a unit going on the road.
So let's talk about that. Like, to me, it's not just Connor in this conversation, right? Like, to me, the offense has to be good, and that means wide receiver separation, establishing the run, which I think they've been able to do. Is that kind of like what you're thinking?
Yes. Like, on the road, you need 2 things to travel. You need the defense and you need the run game to travel. Okay? Because the run game controls the clock. The one thing that you want to be able to do on the road, and you want to do in every game, but specifically on the road, you want to be able to control the clock. You control the clock, you control the game, right? Our defense is dynamic enough, and we have the pass rushers on the D-line. We've gone back and forth 1,000 times about that. We have enough playmakers in the back end where we can control the outcome a lot more on defense. But now it's about controlling the clock, taking the crowd out of the game, but then exploiting them in situations and opportunities in the pass game off a lot of play actions, a lot of boots, a lot of waggles. I think that we haven't utilized that well enough with Connor and whatnot. But I just think, man, going on the road, being able to have those things, enhance them this week, man, I think it's going to be big for us.
Talking to Jordan Pugh on the Boss Firearms Hotline. Jordan, so let's talk about the Notre Dame game after the Notre Dame game, right? They lose this past weekend, right?
Yep.
And everyone's freaking out, like, oh my gosh, TexAgs were saying that Notre Dame was going to be the best defense we face, and this and that, and I still think they're going to be the best defense A&M faces. But I also have learned that in college football, what happens in week 1 and 2 does not necessarily translate for the entire season. How do you look at that Notre Dame loss, especially considering how they just lost this past weekend, and what it means for A&M? Does it even matter at this point, or are we just moving on?
I don't look at the Notre Dame loss either way. I still look at Notre Dame as an elite defense. They gave up 16 points. They did their job on Saturday. The offense of Notre Dame is what's hurting them. As far as A&M is concerned, it doesn't affect my thought process either way. Look, you got to understand, man, you're going into week 1, college game day, primetime matchup. That's almost like a Super Bowl to those type of athletes, right? You're going into a hostile environment. I think, it was a possible letdown spot for Notre Dame. But as far as us, there was a lot that we took away from that game. You look at what we did defensively. I told everybody, I said, I love what we did on defense. That performance on defense was elite to me. When we take that and we move forward to the McNeese game, you saw the same thing defensively. You basically saw a shutout pitch by our starters, right? So when you're looking at the progression of what we did from game 1 to game 2, moving into game 3, I'm highly encouraged by our team. The one thing that has got to get right is the pass game. And you saw Moose inserted back into the lineup. And you saw whenever he's touching the ball, he is making plays. I think we just have to be better at getting the playmakers the ball in space. Once I think we do that, it opens up more offensively for us. And I think that sometimes, man, we've been too conservative in these past 2 games. And this game will tell a lot offensively because were we holding back heading into SEC play? That's what we don't know yet. So it'll tell a lot, man. But most importantly, get the ball into the playmakers' hands, get it in their hands in space, and I think you'll see the offense open up.
Jordan, a player like Moose is interesting because we know that he plays so well in games when he gets opportunities, but sometimes doesn't. I'm assuming it's practice, right? Maybe the week of practice, other guys outwork him, right? So how do you've coached? How do you balance that where you go, this guy can really help us, but he's I don't know. Like, maybe Cyrus Allen had such a great practice, and it's not that he's having a bad practice. It's just maybe others are having exceptional practices. How do you kind of balance that when you know a guy's got the potential on game day?
That's the greatest mystery in coaching, man. Look, I think if you ask me if I'm giving my 2 cents, I think training camp, Cyrus is out there. He's out playing Moose in training camp. That's what I think. I think you're seeing more consistent play out of him. He understands the offense a little bit more. You're looking at a new coordinator coming in, new schemes, all that good stuff. But when Moose gets into a game, all I see is a guy who makes constant plays over and over and over and over again. It's been like that since he's been on campus. And so I think it was one of those deals where they went back, they looked at the tape against Notre Dame, and they went into week 2 against McNeese, and they said, okay, we got to get this guy involved in the offense. And when he gets involved, you see what he does when he touches it. So, man, it's one of those tricky things as a coach where you're like, man, show me something because you're making me nervous every time I put you out there based on what I've seen for the past 5 to 6 days. Then when you get on game day, you're a brand new person. So it's one of those deals, man, where you're looking for consistency. Every coach wants consistency. I want to know what I'm getting when I put you out there on that football field. Am I getting a guy who's going to make constant mistakes? Cool, that's easy. Come sit down next to me. Am I getting a guy who's going to make plays every time he touches the ball? Cool, go on the football field and go make plays. You're looking for that consistent effort, that consistent output. And one of the things that I've seen, man, with Moose, every time that he's out there, he's consistent when that ball's in his hands. So I think it's an interesting facet, man. That's one of the things with coaching. That's why coaches get paid so much in college, because you're trying to figure out guys' personalities, where they are, their mentality, all that. And man, it's a tricky thing to do.
All right, Jordan, let's talk about what Florida's going to try to do. They potentially could play either quarterback, Graham Mertz and DJ Lagway. If it is Lagway, do you expect for Elko and the defense and Jay Bateman to just give him some confusing looks to make him have to process more information? Because I'm not sure about this. I'm assuming they're probably simplifying the offense if it is Lagway to give him not as many things to read.
If I'm Elko, I'm bringing pressure on Lagway. Here's what I'll say. Watching a few minutes of the game that they played, he's impressive, man. I think the offense flows a whole lot better, and you have a lot more explosive plays with him. With that being said, I think our defense and our front, we're going to go back to the D-line. That's going to be something where he's going to be exposed to something new, right? You're talking about NFL guys across the board. I think that you bring pressure. I think that you can get home with just our initial front, our 3 and 4 down line sets against their offensive line. But I think he's a guy that you need to heat up. He's the guy that you can't let sit back, pick through zones. I think he's talented in that area. But we don't know what he looks like under pressure, under duress, constant duress. And I think that we can do that. I think that will mess him up. I think that will make him hurry. You want to be quick, but you don't want to be in a hurry in the pocket as a quarterback. I think that's going to make him hurry. And then that can lead to turnovers, lead to big plays on defense. So I think you're going to see a lot of pressures from us. And I think you're going to see a lot of pressures coming from the A-gaps, from the middle of the formation. Young guys don't like to step up in the pocket. Young guys like to escape outside of the pocket, especially true freshmen coming from high school. We have the ends that can keep the pocket contained. We rush through the middle. You close and collapse the pocket. I think you create a lot of chaos for him that way.
Jordan, I think you're going to be like Coach Elko here, but are you concerned with the lack of sacks right now?
Yes.
Oh, you are? Okay.
Yes. I am concerned, especially coming off the McNeese game. I figured you would see a lot more, right? Here's what I think. I think a lot of teams are game planning this. So you saw it with Notre Dame. You saw a little bit with McNeese of how it's catch the ball, release the ball. Catch the ball, release the ball. When you have a dominant defensive line, man, those are the type of schemes that you're going to get. But now you're going to start getting into SEC play where there's going to be a lot more play action, a lot more 5-step drops. It's going to allow our pass rushers to really get upfield. And I think you're going to see it start to translate a lot more now. Now, I'm concerned about that because I know the type of talent that's on that front, and they need to be better. Okay. Now, I don't know if it's just not execution. I don't know if they're just not having enough opportunities to, but they got to be able to create more pressure, which leads to more sacks. So that is a concern. It's not a worry. It's just a concern.
Talking to Jordan Pugh here on TexAgs Live. All right. So concern. Then what are you concerned about giving up these big run plays that they've given up? I think of 4 or 5 big explosive runs for a team for the most part that has stopped the run other than those plays. No, I mean that's the nature of the game. At some point, your defense is going to break. At some point, a guy is going to be outside of the gap. I think that's overblown too many times. When you look at the Notre Dame game, it was 2 runs. I think McNeese, you're looking at a couple big runs. If I'm not mistaken, fourth quarter. Backups, reserves are in. I think that we have played well on defense. And you know what I mean? I just think that we have to be able to enhance it, and we have to up our game. We have to up our level. As far as the run game is concerned, going into the Florida game, I think that will be much improved. I think we'll be a lot more gap sound, especially with what they do on offense. So I'm excited to see what they do defensively, but I'm not overly concerned about that. Here's a question from Scar Tissue on the TexAgs chat. He says, Jordan, how do you go about getting more explosive plays in the passing game, considering that there hasn't been that separation. Is it schematics? Is it the play calling? Is it, obviously trying to find guys in space? What do you think Colin Klein's thinking about?
You got to create space. So the way you create space is by alignment and by movement. All right. So when I say alignment, you have tight formations, you have bunch formations. That creates separation initially off the line of scrimmage, right? I can't initially press the receivers, right? You also create space by movement. You motion, sprint outs, boots, waggles. You get guys in the space right now when you create movement because you cause the defense's eyes to shift. Anytime there's a movement, anytime there's a shift on offense, my eyes have to go in multiple places defensively. Okay. So I think that's how they create the separation for the receivers. In the first two games, Notre Dame and East, I didn't see a lot of movement. That's why I'm wondering, are they saving something for SEC play? I think that also getting Connor under center would be big as well. That will allow for more play action with the running game opening up this past week. That allows them for more play action looks, more max protections on the offensive line. And now that can create more separation as well. So we're getting into the schematics of it. It's a lot of it is alignment. A lot of it is movement. Then when you have the rushing game that's going, you can create play action, boosts and waggles off of that can create space for the receivers.
Jordan, there's potential rain on Saturday in Gainesville. Potential, it's still a few days out. How does that, you think, affect the game plan, considering what you said at the top of the segment? You want your defense to travel and you want your running game to travel.
I don't think that affects the game plan at all. Look, I think if it does rain, you just lean on the run game. All right. So you saw the explosive plays that we had in the run game. The defense is going to do what the defense does. Rain doesn't really affect us that way. I just think that now if the rain does come into play, it becomes a factor. Now you're talking about more under center with Connor. You're talking about more play action game with Connor, which that helps the offense in and of itself too. So either way, man, I don't think that's a huge factor. Both teams got to play in the rain. But if that does happen, I think we have the advantage in that aspect based on what we can do defensively and what we can do in the run game.
Jordan, you believed in Connor early on, very, very early on, before his freshman year, that summer. Why do you still believe in him?
Because I know what he's capable of. Look, you're looking at Connor. How many games has he played total? I want to say it's 6, right?
10.
Is it 10? Okay. So you're still looking at a guy who's still getting used to the college game. But when you look at let's go back to that Miami game. You look at what he did against Miami, and you saw the progression slowly build. You see what he's capable of. You know the command that he has. I think that you're dealing with a guy that's in a new offense. You're dealing with a guy who has expectations now. And when you're looking at expectations, sometimes that can weigh on you. But also at the same time, I think that offensively we have been holding him back. Or, i.e., we've been holding the offense back from what Klein usually does. You saw from what he did at Kansas State, the explosive plays, the movement, all that. You haven't seen a lot of that. So going into this game, I think you're going to see a lot more of it. I think that they've been waiting for SEC play to open because we know that's the most important part of the year, right, when SEC play starts. And I'll be interested to see, man, how they really allow Connor to take control of this offense and utilize his full skill set, arm and leg. I think that's going to be big going into this week.
Do you worry about this game, though? It's just obviously it's a winnable game because it's a team that's kind of wounded and doesn't have a lot of expectations. It is an SEC road game. This team has struggled on the road. It's a hostile place to play. If somebody was writing the story, that story, an anti-A&M person would be like, of course A&M loses this game. This is what they do. Are you worried?
I worry about every SEC game because every SEC team is capable of beating one another. Every single one. Here's the number one worry I have. If they play Lagway, that's going to be a concern / worry for me. What I saw with Florida last week is you saw hope. When he went in the game, you saw excitement. You saw an offense that goes, okay, we have a guy who can deliver, who can make plays. That changes everything. Mentality, mindset, all that. There's always a worry going into it in SEC play going on the road. But I think that we're fully capable and we can handle every single scenario that's thrown at us on the road. And I think we get out of there with a victory.
Jordan, great stuff as always, my friend. Thank you so much.
All right, man. Let's do it.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Jordan Pugh there on the Boss Firearms Hotline.